What happens when a billionaire who thought he had the world in his palm is suddenly brought to his knees in the middle of an airport, his mistress clinging to his arm, only to hear his pregnant wife's name called over the intercom? Buckle up, because this tale is not just about betrayal, it's about the kind of karma that strikes where you least expect it, and the twist will leave you gasping till the last line. Read till the end, and if you enjoy jaw-dropping stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable dramas that prove truth is stranger than fiction. At the bustling JFK airport, where the chatter of travelers mixed with the metallic hum of rolling suitcases and the sharp scent of coffee from the kiosks, billionaire real estate mogul Richard Halden strolled confidently through the first-class terminal with his perfectly manicured mistress, a 26-year-old model named Vanessa draped on his arm, her designer heels clicking against the floor as she clung to him like a prize, while Richard's smirk stretched smugly across his face, the kind of smirk that belonged to a man who thought his money insulated him from consequences, a man who had grown used to snapping his fingers and watching the world rearrange itself to his desire. Yet beneath that arrogance was a trail of lies so tangled that one misplaced thread could unravel everything, and today was the day that thread was pulled, though he had no idea yet as he waved his black titanium credit card at the VIP lounge attendant, laughing at some private joke with Vanessa who whispered promises of a weekend escape to Paris where nobody had to know. But what Richard didn't realize was that someone already knew. His wife, Emily, the woman who had stood by him for 12 years, who had lifted him from nothing when his empire was just an idea scribbled on napkins, the woman now 7 months pregnant with their long-awaited child, a child conceived after years of heartbreak, miscarriages, and fertility treatments that drained her body and spirit. But through it all, she had loved him fiercely, believed in him blindly, until she discovered late-night messages on his hidden phone, glossy lipstick stains on his shirts, and whispers from staff who had pitied her too much to stay silent. And instead of confronting him in fury, Emily had quietly made her move, aligning her cards for the perfect checkmate that Richard never saw coming. Because while Richard strutted through the airport with Vanessa believing his lies were secure, Emily was sitting just a terminal away, her hand resting protectively over her round belly, flanked by 2 attorneys and a private investigator, her expression calm yet edged with steel, for today wasn't about tears or begging, it was about revelation, humiliation, and reclamation of everything he had stolen from her. And the universe seemed to conspire with her because as Richard and Vanessa reached the boarding gate for their Paris flight, a sudden announcement crackled through the airport speakers, sharp enough to cut through the sea of conversations. Attention, passenger Emily Halden. Please report to security desk immediately, passenger Emily Halden. And in that moment Richard's smirk faltered, his blood chilling as though ice water had been poured down his spine, because he recognized that name, his wife's name, the name of the woman he had so carelessly dismissed just hours ago with a fabricated excuse about an urgent board meeting in Chicago, and instinctively his eyes darted around the terminal, scanning faces, praying it was just coincidence. Yet there she was, walking with quiet power toward the desk, her pregnancy impossible to ignore, her poise unshaken, every gaze in the lounge shifting toward her as whispers spread like wildfire. Isn't that Richard Halden's wife? Who's the girl on his arm then? And the murmurs swelled into a wave of scandal as phones discreetly lifted, photos snapped, live streams started, because the public adored nothing more than watching the mighty fall. And Richard, for the first time in years, felt naked, cornered, his mistress tightening her grip in confusion, whispering, "What's going on, Richie?" But her voice only amplified his humiliation, because Emily reached the security desk, turned with devastating calm, and locked eyes with him, not with tears, not with rage, but with a knowing smirk that mirrored the one he had flaunted just moments before, and she lifted a folder from her leather bag, handing it to security, who then approached Richard with stern professionalism, saying, "Mr. Halden, you've been served," in front of the entire first-class lounge, shoving legal documents into his stunned hands, divorce papers thick with evidence of his infidelity, financial fraud uncovered by Emily's investigator, and custody filings ensuring he would never manipulate her or their child again. And as Richard's face drained of color, Emily's attorney leaned in just enough to be overheard. "She owns controlling interest now, Richard, your empire is no longer yours." Because what Richard hadn't realized was that while he was sneaking around with Vanessa, Emily had been quietly gathering signatures from shareholders, leveraging alliances, and orchestrating a coup that stripped him of power, a masterpiece of betrayal more elegant than any boardroom deal he had ever attempted. And the onlookers gasped, some applauding discreetly, others recording gleefully, while Vanessa, realizing she was not clinging to a billionaire titan but a disgraced, soon-to-be divorced man with frozen assets, recoiled in disgust, hissing, "You told me she didn't matter." Before yanking her hand away and storming off, leaving Richard frozen in the middle of the lounge as his world collapsed in real time, his empire, his reputation, his mistress, all evaporating within minutes, and Emily, satisfied but merciful, simply placed a protective hand over her belly, whispered just loud enough for him to hear, "You smirked too soon, Richard," before turning on her heel and walking away with the grace of a queen reclaiming her throne, while the crowd parted for her as though recognizing her victory, her power, her resilience, and Richard, clutching the heavy papers with shaking hands, could do nothing but watch as the wife he underestimated left him in ruins, proving that betrayal may start with a smirk, but it always ends with a reckoning, and that reckoning had arrived in the very place he least expected, under the fluorescent lights of an airport terminal where his lies finally took flight without him, because Emily had clipped his wings forever.